All right, welcome back to the program. My guests are with me right here at the table. Prof Abba Gambo is the Dean, Faculty of Agriculture, Yobe State University. Prof, welcome back again.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Dr. Iliyasu Gashinbaki is the Group Country Director at MECA. So we're back here again, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
We're back. Prof, let me start with you.
Yes,
Prof, I'll need you to look at me because it seems... Okay, you know, at the last discussion, we established that we have 82 million hectares of arable land.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
We also, I think about 42% of them of the land is cultivated.
That's
we
right.
also established that majority of the land we have is in the hands of smallholder farmers. And
Definitely.
I did say at that point, at what point do we even move into commercial agriculture if this grow what you eat or eat what you grow or whatever slogan it is, we really work in the long term. So today we are going to be looking at the issue of not just even food production but around processing and what subnationals can begin to do. Since this is like our unique selling point, we have an advantage there. Nigeria has a great and optimal climate for agriculture. What actions and solution that are solution driven should be taken to take advantage of to achieve greater crop production? I know why, before I move into processing, what solution driven actions should we take now to see that it moves from 42% of what is being cultivated to greater, then we can now begin to talk about, okay, let's export like the show I had yesterday and all of that. So, Prof, over to you.
Thank you very much. Now, one thing that we must understand is that in every zone, there is a particular crop that is peculiar to that particular zone. Maybe one local government, two local governments, or about 3 local governments. So the best way to go about answering your question is let's try to make them into clusters. By the time we make them into clusters, we get their comprehensive data, names, hectareages of the farm, even with GPS, you can actually know the farms, etc., account numbers, and then under such a scenario, you can actually reach out to them as quickly as possible. But as it is now, most of them are on their own, and then the land sizes, the farm sizes are very small. You have a situation where, you know, the hereditary system in the country, most especially in the northern part of the country, has actually made compulsory that when a person dies, you divide everything. So if the man has about 4 wives and about 48 children, and he has about 5 hectares, so at the end of the day, you have to fragment that particular farm into bits and pieces because everybody would like to take a share. So you now have, that is what is mainly responsible for the subsistence system we're talking about. And the subsistence has also become a kind of hereditary. If my father was a farmer, then I have to be a farmer. If my grandfather was a farmer, I have to stay in that farming population, profession. But now things are changing. We're looking at farming as an enterprise, an investment-driven thing. You go to the bank, get a loan to do the farming with the aim that you're going to get profit to pay back. But then if you're in farming, or if you're a farmer now, and then you are not making profit, definitely you are not in the right profession. So we advise that you just leave the farm and then move further to something that can give you money because it's profit-oriented. So the best way to go about it is to form clusters. I'll give you just 3 good examples quickly as possible. If you're talking about tomatoes, by the time you're moving up to Kano, by the time you reach Kura, Churomawa, Axis, you see that the tomatoes are being dried on the main road, etc. So you can actually form that into a kind of tomato cluster entity. Then by the time you go to the Sokoto-Wurno axis, I always like talking about that because I did my PhD in that particular area. So when you go to the Sokoto-Goronyo-Wurno axis, you find plenty of onions and garlic. I think the major areas that produce onions and garlic. So in that case, you can actually also form them into a cluster so that you can be dealing with them as far as onions and garlic are concerned. Then by the time you go up to Yobe State, parts of Gaidam, Yeah, you know, sari is vari. That's where you have the major brown beans, and then you can also form them into clusters. By the time you do the clusters, actually it will be easier for you to reach out to them with the aim of getting something out of what they are doing.
Now, what has been the missing link out of getting something what they've been doing? Because if these solutions which you've profiled, they seem very simple, but I don't know how hard or why it is hard to do things like this. So, Dr. Gashinbaki, what is the missing link from what Prof has said? Because I know that when we move now into food processing, for example, food processing, you have to be deliberate to process the food. I'm trying to be as basic and very simple as possible for those listening. You have to be deliberate to move it, to change food from its raw form into processed foods. And we know that things are gradually changing, especially with the rural-urban migration. A lot of us that work may not want to be, if you want to make more, you may not want to be doing beans. Yes, you may just want to get beans that has been, you know, the back has been peeled, dried, and you just put in your blender. I hope you understand what I mean.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, so what is the missing link? Because the food processing industry is a huge business.
Yes.
Billions of dollars.
All right. Yeah, to just add to what Prof said, quite frankly, the part of the challenges at that basic level is that the land ownership in Nigeria is in the hands of smallholder farmers. Now, we have huge logistical challenges when it comes to ensuring that they have the right inputs from seed, chemical, and even mechanization. Now, what have we done to overcome that? The only way you can now overcome that issue of small bits of farmers, 1 hectare here, 1 hectare there, is to group these farmers by geography. And that's where the concept of agro-geo-cops, agricultural geo-cooperative. That means if farmers are in Gwagwalada, you group the farmers in Gwagwalada in one location, farmers that are in Kwali, one location, farmers that are in Abaji. So that's the way you can now easily get across inputs like fertilizer, chemical, seeds, and even the mechanization. So that's the first step, because what we have now in the database of farmers, if you go to states, for example, and you say, give me a database of your farmers, they will give you a database of maybe 1-2 million farmers that they have. But the farmers are not, they are scattered all over. So it compromises the ability to logistically plan the distribution of input. Worst of it is even the ability to assess mechanization, because you are dealing with a tractor, assuming you are working 1 hectare in Gwagwalada, after that you are going to Abaji to do another half a hectare. Logistically is wasteful. So we need to transition this into agro-geo-cooperative. You will still preserve the ownership of this small holding within the agro-geo-coop concept.
How do we get this done now? How do we segmentize? Yes, because we are looking at solutions. How do we get this done? Prof, is it difficult? Doctor, is it difficult?
Well, it's first we have to work with the farmers, farmers cooperatives, farmers union, and farmers association, to begin to tell them that the database of farmers they currently have, if it is not according to geography, is meaningless for planning, is not going to be helpful for getting all this to them. It has to start from there. And even state governments that are already having custody of these databases, it should be refined and defined by geography. Now, once it is defined by geography, you know that the farms are contiguous, meaning this one is adjoined to this, to next, to next. It then means you can logistically, easily get inputs on that location in terms of fertilizer, chemical, seeds, and even mechanization.
Now, the question I want to ask about these farmer associations and what have you, Prof, I'll come to you in a bit. Are these farmer associations or are these farmers, are these associations representative enough? Because I can choose, it's not by force to join an association.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can get some advantages by being a part of an association.
Yes.
So are these associations representative enough? And we know that most of these associations now are a bit politicized, and you know what I mean.
Yes.
In terms, you may even have a farmers association in whatever crop or sector.
Yes.
You will have 2 presidents or 3 factions, and they're like, no, I'm the rightful president, I'm the rightful DG, and all of that. So
Yes.
how do we handle that? And that is also giving confidence to those practicing in that sector.
Yes, the smallholder farmers.
Yes.
Well, what might happen and what will be helpful in this area is that in every state there is a Ministry of Commerce that deals with registration of trade groups, association, unions, and all that. Now, that same department that is responsible for registration of trade groups, state governments and local governments need to be deliberate in ensuring that we have database of farmers by geography. It has to be at that level, so that by the time you are presenting a database of farmers by geography in terms of in local government, even at ward level, once we can break down the data to that level, we'll have solved one of the major challenges to planning of farming in Nigeria. So the local government should be involved, the state government should be involved, traditional rulers also need to be involved, but government need to be deliberate that the current database that we have is not helpful to farming, to the planning of agricultural activities.
Okay, Prof, over to you. And why we stick with subnationals? Because I do know that even as we discussed this, majority of the farming activity, if not all the farming activities, happen in states, in rural settlements. I know that, at least I don't know if it's still on now, that you're a consultant with Nigerian Governors Forum, Agriculture, you know, so, and you had a peer review many years ago with some of your colleagues in different, I had an opportunity to work with all of you.
Yes.
Then we're talking of like 10 years now, or?
Yes, exactly
about
10
that.
years.
You don't tell. You don't tell me we didn't talk Nigerian matter, you know. But anyway, where I'm going to really is, have we seen deliberate efforts from state governments? If we have, what have those efforts been? If we have not, what can states begin to do so that, like you said earlier, we can begin to have clusters if we do not have them? And what those clusters, is it just farming or crop production, which is majority, which contributes more even in the agricultural sector, because I will have crop production, fishery, livestock, forestry, animal, okay, it's also on that livestock. So what I'm going to really is that a deliberate effort from states, governors, and not just creating clusters. What do we do with those clusters? Is it just eating and post-harvest losses, excess food goes to waste?
Okay, thank you very much. I think whether we like it or not, the onus to all this that you are saying lies directly with the federal government. And I mean Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. So you now find a situation whereby Market Women Association, they meet on daily basis. Keke Napep Association, they meet every week. Other associations, they meet every week. But then the National Council of Agriculture meets once per annum.
Once a year?
Once a year. So all the deliberations that you do, by the time you come, like the last one we did, the present minister was not the one in charge. So all our deliberations were geared towards the policy drive of that particular man that was there before. Now, by the time we come, we usually do it in October. By the time we come now, there is a new man, and his own perception of agricultural development in the country is quite different. So more than 75% of the resolutions and the deliberations that we did last year are going down the drain. I want you to note this.
Wow.
Then secondly, and most important, we've always talked about this commodity marketing boards. If you want the farmers to have a fair share, and then if you want government to make it very viable so that you can actually get the farmers as quickly as possible, then definitely the way to go is to form the commodity marketing boards. A farmer in Adamawa State said, okay, I'm going to begin massive yogurt production, and then he was collecting milk. Every day, all the herdsmen around, they milk, and then they bring it, then they say, okay, Iliyasu, he brought 3 liters. Gambo brought 5 liters. So they note it. And then on Friday, every Friday, you now come and then they give you your money. So now we've heard that it's actually the farm of Admiral Murtala in Yako, several farms. We've now heard that every Friday.
In Adamawa State.
Yes, Adamawa State.
I was opportunity to visit that farm some years ago.
I think we need to take another visit. So every Friday, they now give more than 2 million naira as stipends. And the man told me that their actual target is to reach 10 million. So you now find a situation whereby retired civil servants in Adamawa State are selling their properties to buy female cows to come and stay near the farm so that every day they can milk and they know on weekly basis they are getting the money. So it's just a very simple thing. By the time you do the commodity marketing boats, bring them back. They were there before and people were so happy with them. In so many fora we hear that the commodity marketing boats should be there. Now coming to the states, it will amaze you that some states have not fully developed their geographical information systems. So when Ilya is talking about geocops, etc., you find out that you go to some states, the UGs or whatever, the IGS is not fully developed. So we now need a kind of thing whereby let the Federal Ministry of Agriculture look where exactly are the missing links as far as geographical information system, and then you can just go in, give the technical assistance, give the manpower so that all of them develop at the same time. Without that, there is no way you can get a comprehensive list of farmers. The list of farmers that Ilya is talking to, by the time you go to every local government, are political party members.
Why
Exactly,
that?
are political party members. And when you ask them where exactly is the farm, they mention their village, what is the exact location of your farm, and then what is the exact size of your farm, you now find no answer. But with the GPS and the coordinates, we can actually get, and then we know the size of the, when you know the size of the farm, Nancy, it will be easier for you to allocate fertilizer, it will be easier for you to allocate seeds, it will be easier for you to make sure that the extension delivery system goes to that place. So unless and until this is done, it's going to be very difficult. But like I said, I have to come back. The onus lies on the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, because most states are so handicapped now.
So for the ministry to spearhead that leadership.
Definitely, exactly.
But where the ministry is lacking now, states also have that autonomy to be able to develop.
Yeah, they have the autonomy, but one thing I want you to understand is since independence, all agricultural policies, the Green Revolution we're talking about, etc., are all coming from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. So it's a top-down approach. So but it has not worked. It has never worked.
It
has never worked. So maybe we now ask for a paradigm shift that they should now turn it up to bottom-top approach.
Yes.
When you're doing the budget, I saw in some southwestern states, you do stakeholders meeting, you ask them community-based, what exactly do you want this year? Some states do it. I've seen so many states do it. But in the whole of the northern states, it's very unfortunate. There is nothing like that.
Okay. Dr. Gashinbaki, Prof just subtly shaded you small.
I will,
which I did. I read that.
I'll clarify. Yes.
You know.
Yes.
In addition to that, I want you to speak about. He talked about commodity boards, which is also very essential.
Yes.
We are also beginning to see a revival of Nigerian commodity exchange.
Yes.
I want to put that in there by the Apex Bank, because the Apex Bank is a majority shareholder of the Nigerian Commodity Exchange. How do you think that this would impact the system moving forward? And have it in mind that we're also looking at processing.
Yes.
Because if we're talking about processing, majority of the excess food that comes out of food production will not be wasted.
Yes.
It can really go into processing.
Yes.
And from that processing, you export to and you earn foreign exchange. So it's like it's a value chain.
That's true.
So respond.
Okay. I think maybe the precursor to getting the commodity boards back would be, one, we need to also work on standardization and quality control. Because if you are talking about commodities, one thing that you have to get right at the beginning is to make sure that quality control and standardization has, you've been able to achieve that as a level of success. That's the first step. Then the second step also, as you are doing that, or you can do them concurrently, is that while ensuring standardization and quality control, you need to also be very, very strategic in ensuring also that you cut out post-harvest losses. For example, when you look at tomatoes, tomatoes, plantain, oranges, and all that, we are losing a colossal sum of about $12 to $13 billion annually, just because of this perishable, because the volume that we have that is associated with post-harvest losses is ranging from 40 to 45%. So you have to deal with that. So once you are able to also deal with that, which is the step 2, then you now go into the main deal, which is the commodity boards. But I have a different view about the commodity boards. It should not be government-led. It's still going to be private sector-led. And that is why the commodity exchange, we've seen some progress being made so far. I think that should be encouraged. And whatever support that is needed to make sure that they are up, that should happen. But again, the commodity boards will not also function properly without also making sure that we transition from all this smallholder farm to semi-industrial and major industrial farming. Because at that point, you will now know, you will be able to say that, look, you are guaranteeing production, and at the same time, post-harvest losses is eliminated, and there are standards and quality control in place. Then the commodity exchange will function properly because weights and measures, we now have something that is all across Nigeria. Not this one that you go to Wuse market, they are using different weights and measures. You go to Onitsha market, it's different. Yeah. You go to Lagos, it's different. Yeah. You go to Maiduguri, it's different. So there is a lot that needs to be done to layer each upon each other. So we'll have the
standardization of even measurement across the country.
It has to happen.
Oh, I didn't think of that, but I know that there's a difference. If you go to my tour, for example, the weight of measurement is different from Onitsha, from Abuja, and all of that.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to achieve all this put together. They don't work in isolation.
Who drives this process?
Now, this process, for it to be successful, should be private sector-led. I want to slightly, I don't want to say disagree with Prof, but give another, no, he is my mentor, so I will give another perspective to his
Prof, we can disagree to agree.
For the federal government that has been taking the lead since the 1960s and 70s and should still do. How much can the federal government do? The reason why we are stuck in the hole that we are, and you have said it, is it a good thing the National Council of Agriculture is meeting once a year? No. And that is why no state government should wait for the federal government regarding the direction of agriculture. Because that is not on the exclusive list. Agriculture is on the concurrent list. And therefore, since there is no constitutional inhibition as to participation, it doesn't make sense for state governments to wait for directives from Abuja as regarding agriculture. Remember, the local governments and the state governments are closer to the people. And of course, the land titles in Nigeria. Federal government doesn't have 1 hectare of land to give anybody.
Definitely.
So if that's the case, the titles of all this, the 98 million hectares we are talking about, the title of the 92 million hectares that we are talking about resides in the hands of the governors. The president cannot give you 1 hectare of land. So it is that. Maybe except probably in the FCT. But anywhere outside the FCT, even 1 hectare of land cannot be allocated by the president. It belongs to the governors. The land title is in the hands of the governors. So you can see that the subnationals, they have a very significant role to play in opening the space in agriculture, facilitating the emergence of a competitive commodity exchange. There's nothing that stops states from ensuring that we have a private sector-led commodity exchange at subnational levels. Nothing stops them.
Now, if you're saying that private sector also should lead this, do you see any opportunity for private sector arbitrage. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Yes,
Yes.
because sometimes private sector is driven by profit.
Yes.
And once you see that, they'll be like, okay, if you give private sector, put it totally in their hands, they may one day wake up to cause scarcity to increase price. For example.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
I do, but you have to, there are things that you leave to government. There are things also that if you want it to work, allow the private sector to take the lead. For example, now let me digress a bit. If you look at, and these are the things that federal government can do. When you look at the newer act, Nigerian Inland Waterways Authority Act, I said in this show last week that 28 states are linked with the inland waterways in Nigeria. Only 8 states are landlocked. And by the act, 10 kilometers left and right of the bank of the inland waterways, the right of way belongs to NIWA. In courts, belongs to the federal government. Now imagine if we begin to deploy massive irrigation facilities across the banks of the River Benue and River Niger, 10 kilometers left and right. That is enough to feed the entire West Africa, what you will have along the corridors of our inland waterways. So these are the kind of things that should come as a push, strategic push from the federal government. You understand? But when you are talking about market forces, the prices, the price regime, at the core of it, the reason why farmers engage into farming is to also meet their needs. And it's not just for them to eat, it is out of what they produce that they pay school fees, cater for their health, and all sorts of things. Their basic human needs comes there. So central to all of this is how do you increase the income of farmers? Because the bottom line is, if you are in farming, every agricultural policy should be tied towards increasing the income of that farmer because he is the one that is involved in primary production.
I think at the time, Ghana had an issue, I think last year, around their cocoa production.
Definitely.
And that the cocoa farmers in Ghana are not making so much money they should make because majority of the money goes to those processing
into chocolate.
Yes, chocolates
exactly.
and all of that.
Yes.
Now, Prof, let me ask you this. We're talking about value added now, which we've established that processing is good. I don't want us to go all through the challenges because we know what the challenges are. We established that last week also. Which products really can we have value addition? That the value added will be that great or good? Because I guess it's not all goods or all products, that's all crops that you may have value addition the same way. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Definitely.
Prof. So which crops can we begin to look at that even those that are listening can begin to take advantage of, because they are all investment opportunities and they are business opportunities. Just like you said, plantain, you can do it to, is it bakery or plantain chips? You know, yes, and people sell it,
That's
you know, yeah. So what category of products can we begin to look at?
Thank you very much. Now, please, can I just digress 10 years ago when we did the peer review? I just want to repeat that when we did the peer review, 36 states, Nancy, I stand to be quoted, the report is at the NGF Secretariat, we did not see a single governmental agro-processing plant existing in all the 36 states of the country. It's in the report in there. So perhaps we have to ask the Nigerian Governors Forum to do another peer review since the tenure of some governors are going. Let's exactly see, is it the same scenario last 10 years or no? That is by the
Governors Forum, you've heard it. I know they are watching.
Yes.
Then the second one is we have some high-value crops. Now I just want to talk about the extended, the expected, and then the potential and what is on ground. We have some high-value crops that are just our major selling points. A very good example is sesame. If you leave the country and then you see the amount of sesame that is being taken in the Arabian and Mediterranean areas, it will amaze you. They have this singular belief that sesame is very good for the heart. And you know, most of them, there is this obesity problem with them. So there is no food that they take without putting sesame into it. So if we can get our sesame subsector clean it very well. The major problem is the cleaning. You harvest it very well, and then you get good cleaning machines, send it out, it goes out excellently, and it's making plenty of money. Then another thing is, I've seen it physically. By the time you go to Saudi Arabia, if you can able to smuggle 3 fruits of pineapple, and then maybe 3 tubers of yam, you can actually regain back your ticket, the value of your ticket.
But people will buy it.
Rushing. The moment you go in, they rush. Because pineapple and yams are the few things that are lacking in that particular area. But unfortunately, China has now come in. China has started the production of yams. So I was thinking Nigeria will now get a comprehensive policy.
Just like China has started the production of cocoa.
And soon they will turn it
Ghana
into chocolate. Really?
Yes.
Exactly.
Last year was just
so
one
they've started the production of yams. And then another thing is, most of these perishables in the horticultural subsector, Ilya is talking about $13 billion, naira, right?
Dollars
per annum.
Yes.
And then I want to say that in the horticultural subsector, our post-harvest loss is put about 59% per every horticultural crop. For every 100 oranges produced by the man in Benue or Boko, about 59% are lost, either because of wrong harvesting, wrong transportation, etc. So these are the kind of things we should do. Then, of course, the tomatoes go everywhere, no value chain. The onions are there. We cannot store our onions beyond 3 months. So that's why at a particular time you find that the bag of onion, the 100 kg, goes for about 18,000 naira. Then at a time it comes to a point whereby a single onion goes for about 200 naira. So all these things are crops that are very important to Nigeria and also very important to outside world. Onion and tomatoes, nobody takes any kind of food without using these two on daily basis. So these are the kind of things we could look at. Then the citrus, I was talking about the oranges, and then we should put more value on our yams and pineapples. Is there a way we can brush them, polish them very well, so that we can take them out? If there is something like that, we are going to get plenty of money.
I see that some people are beginning to dry pineapples now, because sometimes I walk into supermarkets, I've actually bought those before.
Yeah, flakes, into flakes.
Yeah, into flakes,
exactly.
And also dry, you just put it in your mouth, they'll dry it and it's like a snack.
That's right, that's right, that's right. But then, coming back still to the main issue, the best way to do all this with perishables, the horticultural crops, most of them have plenty of water, watermelon, pineapple, etc. So the best way to go about it is to now process it into juices so that you can actually, last 2 years, we consumed 500 million liters of different juices in Nigeria, 2020. Of that 500 million liters, only 1% came from Nigeria. The other 499 million liters are actually imported concentrates. So we just have to put our house in order as quickly as possible. The rainy season is coming. The previous rainy season was very good for most farmers. Really, most farmers were smiling to the bank. And just within a week, if I should tell you the changes in prices, it will amaze you. Last week, 100 kg bag of wheat was going for 32,000. Today is going for 42,000. Just 10,000 increase within 1 week.
Why?
Russia,
Ukraine. Okay.
So we just have to take into consideration the other factors that are directly related to agriculture.
Prof, still sticking with you before I come back to Dr. Gashinbaki, even as we almost round up. Are there opportunities, agro-processing opportunities in livestock? Because countries like Denmark, for example, some countries in the Scandinavian countries make billions of dollars livestock. Are there opportunities? We see that a lot of people now go into poultry, fish farming, and, you know, thank you, Prof, for bringing me what you brought to me last week. I must say it, fish. You know, Prof always brings me that from Borno, so I need to say, but I see that a lot of people go into that, fish farming and all of that. Is that enough? And how can we begin also to take advantage? That is, if we are sufficient yet in livestock, are we? Are we?
Yeah, the most important thing is, are we or are we not?
Yes.
As an agriculturalist that has been in the field for the last 30 years, I will tell you that the livestock industry, we are divinely blessed to have this large amount of animals in the country, and then if properly harnessed, we can actually get all our dietary needs from them. We eat suya on daily basis, we eat kilishi on daily basis, the smoked fish, etc. All of them. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think there is a kind of importation of kilishi into the country. None. But it's now the other way out. So, but then it's not well harnessed. To be fair to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, last year they started this pilot livestock production program, and then it's taking place in some states whereby they get a piece of land, and then they now make sure the typical Fulani cow, you know, the typical cow we have in the country gives about 1 liter per milk per lactation per day. So they are now thinking of...
Is it the Sokoto Gudali? Because I know there's the Muturu, there's the Gudali.
Exactly. But then most of those that move.
Okay.
Exactly, because the movement actually takes the carcass or the beef off them and also makes the milk production also low, and it also makes the Fulani man to be very skinny, you know. You hardly see the movement. So today in Maiduguri, tomorrow in Lokoja, next tomorrow in your village.
Yeah.
Real movement and on foot. So what I'm saying is the federal government has now come up with a program for livestock development whereby you now get the artificial insemination thing. You get the semen from cows that are like the Frisian of South Africa.
Yes, I was coming to
exactly. That. So they give about 40 to 50 liters of milk per day, every day. So you now have your own that gives about 1 liter per day. So the best thing is to bring the semen, import the semen, and then you do the artificial insemination to the cows. So by the time they deliver, you now get a semblance, a kind of hybrid between the local and the imported. Okay. But then it's not going to give you the exact amount of milk. By the time you do the cross multiplication severally, what you call the F1, F2, F3 generation, you come to a side whereby you can get the pure breed from the local, pure imported breed from the local. Okay. So, and then still talking about other crops, let me just quickly say, millet.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. Yes, millet was going for 21,000 last week. Today, millet is 31,000. So this 10%, 10,000 increase in all the crops is really amazing. Okay, within a week.
We have to go. Dr. Iliyasu, in just 15 seconds, if you can, your closing remarks, because we have to take something else.
Okay. But in closing, I would say that for us to enhance food processing, we just need to go by the sequence, deal with standardization and quality control, make sure that weights and measures also are in place that gives us way we measure these things all across commodities. And then, of course, the subnationals, they should take what do I say now? They should take ownership of driving agriculture in their state, not necessarily working for the federal government.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the program today. I appreciate it. And thank you, Prof, for still sticking behind. So I wish you a safe trip.
Thank you very much.
Back to the material.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you for having me.
Gashinbaki. Yes. Okay, I've been speaking with Prof Abba Gambo, Dean, Faculty of Agriculture, Yobe State University, as well as Dr. Iliyasu Gashinbaki, Group Country Director at MECA. We've had fantastic conversations around agriculture in the last 2 weeks, so I will urge you all to go to our YouTube channel and check them out. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. I'll see you all again tomorrow. I am Nancy Najibi, the best you can be, and be that change.